Hello, my name is Ivan Rodriguez, and for my presentation, I'll be talking about immersion and VR tech in gaming. What's immersion? Immersion, when it comes to video games, refers to the idea of making the player feel like they are inside of the video game world. There is a range of different ways that the developer usually incorporate to achieve the best range of immersion. VR is a simulated experience. It ranges from trying to achieve similarity with the real world to create a completely different experience. The main uses of VR over the years have been in the use in the video game field as well as in the military and medical fields for training purposes. During the last few years, VR has been solidifying a better place in the gaming world. Why immersion? A game with good immersion bridges the gap between the real world, where the player is, and the video game world. This makes that the player will get more invested on the game and disconnects him more from actual reality. One of these ways is realism. Realism might be the first thing that people think about when it comes to make the player feel more immersed. If the world is made in a way that everything looks real, the player will automatically feel a connection with the game as everything is more familiar to him. Some of the best examples of this from the last few years are The Last of Us 2 and Death Stranding. Both of these games kill it completely in the realism factor with the graphics in the game. It is also really well aided by the performance of the actors as well as the work of the animators. Level design is a big thing when it comes to immersion. Creating the map in such a layout that feels realistic architecturally, but at the same time leaves it open enough for exploration will immerse the player as they'll find the way around the maps. Two of the best examples of this are Bioshock and Bloodborne. Both of these games have some amazing maps that feel like they really could exist in real life, because of the architecture on it, while at the same time they have this mystery to them with a lot of secrets that the player can find. Sound design is a great tool when immersing the player on the experience. Sound is one of the main sessions that we use in our daily basis. From communicating with other people to keep ourselves alert when crossing the street and even to identify different objects. Getting sound right is a key when trying to get the player immersed into the experience. Headphones is a key tool when making the player feel immersed into the game, as it isolates outside sounds and gets a better edge in surround sounds. A game that uses them excellently is Devil Daggers. The game has such a good sound design that from hearing a sound, you know what kind of enemy did that sound and where exactly it is, even if you are actually not even looking at him. Aesthetic. When it comes to video games, kinesthetic refers to the idea of relaying information of actions to the player in a way that actually feels like there's some impact to it. It is usually done by using animation, sound, and the very own mechanics on the game. A terrible example of kinesthetic will actually be Counter-Strike. When most weapons, when you shoot them in Counter-Strike, there's a huge lack of recoil. The sounds are soft and they end up feeling more like BB guns. Meanwhile, in The Last of Us, when you shoot a gun, the animation makes the character get kicked back just by the power of it, while the sound is violent, and all of this makes the player feel more like they are shooting an actual gun. The most common VR technology that is used in gaming is the VR headsets, such as PlayStation VR, Oculus Rift, and Vive. They have a screen as well as the gyroscope that detects your head movement. Another very common VR technology used for gaming is hand motion controls, which they normally use a camera or a sensor to properly detect your movement. The basic advantage that VR offers to developers to achieve immersivity is that the player can see the 3D objects with a more 3D perspective that simulates more how we see objects in real life. That makes you feel more like you're inside of the game rather than the traditional 2D screens. This, aided with more realistic graphics, gives a great level of immersivity. Same way the headphones help immersivity by isolating the player from all outside sounds. A VR headset does the same, but with visuals. Isolating the player from outside visuals does a good job of this. A good example of this is when professional Tetris player Trey Harrison tried Tetris Effect for the first time, which it's a VR version of Tetris, and he noticeably played way better than he would normally play Tetris. VR also helps getting a better VR headset also helps to provide a better kinesthetic experience, thanks that objects actually look that they get closer. When you play Super Hot in VR, for example, and you shoot an enemy, some pieces of that enemy will just start coming towards you, and that makes it feel like there's some impact that you're making into the game. Using VR motion controllers when playing a VR game also helps considerably to get the player more immersed into the experience. When using a regular controller, you normally just press a button and your character swings its sword. With motion controllers, you're feeling like you're swinging an actual sword. Object detecting interactivity in VR is an incredible way to get the player immersed into the experience. Thanks to the VR headset and motion controllers, it feels more like you're holding the object and can move it around in a more natural way and with more freedom than with a controller or a mouse. Half-Life Alyx does this really well. The player can use a huge amount of simple objects, like let's say for example a teacup, to improvise the way around the level. There is still some disadvantages for VR in immersivity. One of the best examples is that when you move around in a VR game, it can cause motion sickness really easily. So some games use warp movement rather than the way you would normally move in the game, and this kind of gets you a bit of the experience. Though it's not necessary to use VR in video games to make the player feel more immersed, VR used in the right way, it can considerably increase the experience of the player and in how to get immersed.